Do you ever find yourself wondering, wow, man, I really wish I knew where the best place in the United States to invest in a short-term rental property is? You ever find yourself driving through a small town and see people going up and down Main Street there and thinking, I wonder if this would be a good place to invest in a short-term rental property? Well, you don't have to wonder any longer because Kenny Bedwell, the founder and the owner of STR Insights, is on the show today. He's going to share with you how to use the tool, what the tool is all about, who he is, his background, and the future of some Airbnb properties in the United States. Don't miss this show. You're going to love it. Kenny Bedwell, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mark. It's great to be on.
Yeah, man. So we were just talking before the show, just kind of how you got into it, how you got in the short-term rental space, how you got into the analytics space. But can we kind of go back a little bit farther? Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Georgia, near Savannah.
Oh yeah.
So I don't
Deep
have
South.
that. I lost that southern draw. I used to say I'm from Savannah, y'all. I don't say it anymore, unfortunately. So I left.
No, that's the Deep South, man. That's great. And you live in Buffalo now, right?
Yep, I live in New York. So complete opposites, not opposite side of the U.S., but opposite environment.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So did you always kind of growing up? I mean, we gave a little background. You have a company named STR Insights, and you guys help folks with analytics around where to choose their short-term rental market. Were you just kind of growing up, were you just naturally good at math and analytics, or where did that proclivity kind of come through?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mark. So I would probably say that I was always good at math. Analytics didn't come until college when I was like, oh, what's this? I wasn't introduced to it until college. So I had no idea what I was going to do, even in the middle of college, where I'd go in life. And so I always had an interest in real estate, but I didn't know what I would do with it. And I just knew one day I'd invest in, own properties and do stuff with it and figure it out. So then the two started kind of coming together as I progressed in my career after college and so on. So yeah.
What did you go to college for?
I went to BYU in Utah, and I studied economics. So
okay,
and that was very, very analytical. So that's where it kind of push my limits on the analytical side. And so a lot of my peers went, and including myself, we do consulting roles or whatever, but I joined Citibank after that and worked there for 5 years. So.
Okay. So you're probably a spreadsheet Excel master.
Yeah, that, but I go a little bit deeper. I like data science, so I'll go in like databases and do some database stuff. And because I look at millions of records, so spreadsheets are, I don't want to, spreadsheets are important, but they're child's play compared to what the databases can do. So, so that's my playground.
No, I get it. We used to have an IT company, and a lot of our business was in healthcare, and data science in healthcare is a massive deal. Like, like how to diagnose somebody and what are the telltale signs, and then all the different codes. There's like 40 codes for like a hummingbird bite or something. It's kind of crazy. So I kind of get some of what you did, but when you went to Citibank, that sounds like it was one of your first major jobs out of college. Did you kind of progress into data analytics, data science, or is that where you started?
That's kind of where I started. So I was in the equities research department. We're monitoring like Fortune 500 companies and looking at the data behind them. And basically, we would sell the research. So people would come and say, hey, what do you think this company's going to do? And my position was kind of like I was looking and helping and assisting with data aggregation and data science behind every single department, or not department, but like industry within the equities department. So hotels and stuff. And I was tracking like Airbnb and Vrbo and the Marriott homes and all that as they were growing. and being able to see the trends and things like that with the data. And then being able to tell, I mean, I had the idea for STR Insights because I was building my real estate portfolio as I was working for Citi,
Yeah.
you know, and the idea came, and I actually, I presented it to to my boss and some of the other people, because I was like, hey, this is a big need in our industry, and this industry is expanding and growing, and they were just not really interested in it. So I'm like, okay, well,
So what
yeah,
year was this? Like, how old were you when you were doing this?
20. So you're talking about like when I started investing in
It's like,
short-term real
so
estate?
you were working for Citi. You had already started investing in some short-term rental. You developed this kind of the start of what is now STR Insights, and you presented it to your boss, and they were like, "Nah."
Well, I presented the idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I presented the idea because it's like the start of it, figuring out on my own was the fun part. But
Mm.
that was all like right when the pandemic was hitting, you
Oh,
know,
wow.
because I had started my short-term real estate portfolio in Buffalo in 2018.
Okay.
So I knew success. I knew I was growing it. And then I was like, hey, looking at the data and the growth, like, you know, we could do this. But the idea, though, came after, you know, after what I kind of said to him. It was like, okay, he was uninterested in it. I'm like, well, I think there's merit here. How can I leverage this based on my problems and build it for me personally, not for the masses?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's exactly what it ended up being, because being at Citi, kind of a conflict of interest. It was more of like, what can I build for myself and use that to leverage? And then that's what turned into the actual business idea of STR Insights. And then that's when I was like, okay, I can't work at Citi anymore if I'm going to do this. Excuse me. So yeah, it was like, I need to move on and do my own thing. So
yeah. So this progresses, like 2020, you kind of, you're doing this, but, you're at this point, are you in a mastermind with Bill Faith yet?
yeah. So I guess to clarify a little bit of the back history here.
No, it's okay.
So part of this idea was being in a mastermind, you know, of like-minded individuals. And so Bill Faith's mastermind, I had joined that. And this going over this problem of, hey, I don't know where to invest. I want to expand my portfolio. You only know what you know, kind of like what we talked about before the show. I created this tool for myself, was able to find a property outside of my area within 4 hours. Never been there before, never heard of it before, until I did the research, and this tool told me, go here. The data told me in these spreadsheets. And then I presented it to the mastermind. And my mastermind was like, Kenny, this is awesome. They started using it and finding markets and buying properties. And they're like, this is great. You need to share this with the public. And that's kind of where the whole like, okay, turn this into a public business or keep this internally and private decision came into play. And I realized, hey, I could turn this into a business and also help people, more people, because there's a great need. And I saw a lot of, and we're still seeing it, big mistakes where people are kind of chasing markets or areas to invest in based off of people's previous success. And the market shifts over time. So it's really important to track that instead of like, I'm not saying time it, but know where current revenues are at versus current prices of homes, rather than just like relying on what people did, you know, months ago or years ago, you know, and say, oh, I'm going to go there because, you know, Mark was successful there or Bill was successful there. It's like, but the numbers don't make sense today. So,
So that property that was 4 hours away, did you buy it?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I still have it.
How's it doing?
Yeah. Great. So the purchase was $350,000. I was all in after furnishings and down payment, all that good stuff for $100K. I grossed in the first year $95,000, and I netted about 46.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Almost 50%.
Thanks.
Cash on cash, I guess, almost 40 some percent.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you're saying is true. Like, we started investing in the Smokies in like 2016, and the prices were less than half what they are now. And so it was incredible, but we have seen so much new construction and so many people flooding that market. It is just incredible. And so, I mean, I have houses for sale now there, but it's like they're 10 cap rates, you know, it's 10 to 12, whereas You just mentioned like a 45, not 45, but it's way more than 10. So it's 45% cash on
Yeah.
cash, but you know what I'm getting at.
Right.
Yeah, it's like 30. So yeah, I mean, that's super interesting. And then when you started identifying other markets and you made this public, tell us a little bit more about it. Obviously, there's another tool out there called AirDNA that a lot of people are familiar with. They've got a big name brand. They have tons of subscribers. Tell us how STR Insights is different than that.
Yeah, so STR Insights helps with the first fundamental question of where should I invest? So other data providers, I'll just leave it at that. They help you. Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. I'll say because this is just everybody else. This is what makes this unique. So you tell them the market, you give them your money, and they give you the data for the market. The problem with this is it limits in terms of you only pay for markets or states or regions or that are successful. But, it goes back to the adage of like, you only know what you know. So the point of STR Insights is to help people say, look, you subscribe to this platform, you have access to any market across the United States. It's all United States. We don't limit anything at all. You have access to everything. And the dashboard is a market to market comparison. So you're not typing in markets. You can if you want to, but it's like starting from ground zero of this is my budget. This is what I can afford. These are my destination preferences. Like maybe I want to invest in a beach market, a lake, a river, ski, mountain, like whatever that is. Urban markets. Show me the top ones. Show me the top ones in the Southeast or in the state or this region or wherever based on my budget. Boom. Here are the top markets. We have it in a map format or we have it like in what's like a spreadsheet almost format. And you can compare them based off an ROI. So it's called a gross ROI or gross yield. So the average rents divided by the average purchase price in that market of short-term rentals. That's the key. The biggest differentiator between our platform and everybody else is we're providing you the value of short-term rentals in a market, not residential homes, not the Zillow estimate, not the Zillow median listing price, but short-term rentals, because we've pulled the values of short-term rentals in those markets and averaged them together. We know that properties on the beach are valued more than properties off the beach in a HOA or a senior living community, but on Zillow, they don't differentiate that. But as investors, we need to know that to make sure that that's a good market to invest in. Yeah. So that's what we're focusing on in the tool. Then the tool breaks it down further by bedroom count. So you can see, okay, cool. Yes, I can afford to be in that market, but what can I afford in that market? And what's the best bedroom count to invest in? Is it 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms? It's never linear. Revenue is not linear. Demand is not linear either. So therefore, there's going to be better bedroom counts. Some markets are saturated, and you're going to see that in the data. The ROI will be less. So it'll help you pinpoint what I call inefficiencies or opportunities in these markets, where to invest for someone who has no idea about, a market they've heard of before.
What is the data time frame? So you're pulling this data. Is it based off of like the previous 12 months?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the previous rolling 12 months. Okay.
Yeah, rolling 12 months. Yeah. So, right now we're starting to get enough of 2023 data to feel pretty good about, what we're seeing, in terms of like slight dips in revenue across the board. But, I always recommend people when they're analyzing properties, you might see a number, but you need to run a revenue range in a pro forma. You need to run a good, better, best scenario, not just, hey, this calculator told me it's going to make $100,000, therefore I'm going to run everything off 100K. Most of the time you're being overly optimistic. So That's what I see, like in my experience helping people out. So anyway, that's kind of my like general rule of thumb, but the tool is giving you an idea of which markets are doing well, and then where in markets where are the opportunities in those markets.
Yeah. This is fascinating. I'm just curious. I'm just thinking about this out loud a little bit. Like, could you pull this data and present it to a lender? Has anybody done that?
Yeah. So the lenders, it's tricky because I've had a lot of lenders come they want to build loan products off of it, right? The only issue though is that they need to basically be able to have some sort of like, here are true, good, accurate comps that we know of in this particular market. And that's fine and dandy, but there's a lot of like work in that. So when you think about a short-term rental, what impacts revenue the most is location, quality of the property, like exterior, interior, design, furnishings, and obviously value adds could be amenities, pool, hot tub, views of the water, things like that like aren't measurable in physical data points. Some of those are, some of those aren't. So it's really hard to feel confident about building based off conversations I've had with a lender specifically for that. I haven't had one jump all in on it yet. They're like, well, when you guys do this, we'll see. And I'm like, okay, maybe. But yes, they are interested. And yeah, I think it is a good idea.
You have to do it based off a worst case scenario. Like, all right, here's a drab cabin in the middle of nowhere with no views. And then anything's better from there.
And that's even like debatable because it's like, well, did they use dynamic pricing? Did they, like, are they staying in the house some parts of the year? Is it a full-time investment? I mean, it gets really cloudy with a lot of this stuff. I know some of them are underwriting deals, and I think it's absolutely crazy with some of the calculators they're using for, the data they're getting. But so they are a little more lenient, but for how I'd like to do it, I think there's some issues and expenses, insurance. You know this in the Smokies, like it's gone up. Florida, it's insane. So anyway, it is something I'm kind of working on in the background. It's like a side project, but it's difficult. But it's a good idea.
That's fascinating. Let me ask you this. This is interesting too. So the top ranking town in the United States, does that change hourly, daily, weekly? Like how often does that change? And does STR Insights track it down to the hour, the day,
there's a lot of, that's an onion to unpeel here. So let's
sorry.
No, fine.
Personal interest.
So our data is updated monthly. So it would technically, the short answer is, it would update monthly and we do it. But the top ranking town might not actually allow short-term rentals due to regulation. So now it becomes this decision of, okay, well, what's the top ranking town based off of like open, like you can go in and buy a property. It starts to get really fuzzy. So there's a little bit of bias. And whenever you see like the top towns to invest in lists, there's obviously going to be some bias involved in that. I always look at the person who wrote it and where they're from. 9 times out of 10, they're from the area that they put on one of the markets, or like they're looking at it from like a different like viewpoint. There's a lot of bias in terms of top markets. So it's a trap question. Not saying you get like, but it's like, if you ask me, Kenny, if you said, hey, what are the top markets? I can, I'll rattle some off, but next month it could be a different grouping as
totally
well.
Different.
So
you ever see one just go from, according to STR Insights, obviously, I'm assuming STR Insights is oblivious to local laws and rules and stuff like that, right? That's on the user to do.
Yeah, actually, we do provide some of that data in the market profile, and we have a filter for it as well. So if it's restricted for a majority of the large markets, you can put that filter in, and it will eliminate the markets that are restricted. So, and then we also provide the source link too, so you can click it and it'll take you right there. Not every market across the U.S., but it's the major ones. So
So, but buyers should do their own diligence as well. Like you're going to provide as much data as you can, and then it's on you to kind of do the due diligence thereafter.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like, so in the tool, not only do we have, because the idea here is we're helping people identify new markets. You can use it to study current markets that you already know about, but we're helping people identify new markets. So they need help with a realtor if they're going to buy something there, a lender who can lend in that market, insurance, who does coverage there, the regulation. We provide all of that. We have like a source.
Cleaners,
you can say, okay, cool.
You do
We don't have cleaners or maintenance. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I found like working with a local realtor who knows that market, they can provide that for you too.
Yeah.
So that's been one of the advantages of that. So
What a huge, I mean, that's a big deal. Like, all right,
yeah,
you click a button, you do a search, you get the data right here for this specific house, and then you've got your insurance, your lender, your everything kind of to make the transaction, and then it's on you to make it
right.
go. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. That is great. What is like what's next? Like, do you? I mean, obviously you have an incredible and a robust product now, but this is what you think about all day, every day. So you probably get all kinds of questions around like, hey, what about this? And what about this? What's kind of the next, what's on the horizon?
So we've really focused on, I'm a very like outcomes driven person. My goal is not to, like I said, my initial goal with STR Insights wasn't to make this public or build it out, but what it turned into was to help people, like get people the access to the information they needed. But furthermore, what I'm finding is that a lot of people, I do a lot of consulting with people too. And what I'm finding are people, and a lot of it's kind of like sad stuff, like people coming to me saying, hey, Kenny, I bought at the wrong time. I bought at the height of the market. I'm probably going to be closed on. Like that's happening more and more. And they're like, what can I do to increase my bookings? And, you know, what data do you have? Do you have anything that can help me out? Or, hey, I'm trying to buy my first property and I don't know where to look. I've been stuck for a year and a half and everything just seems saturated. There's no hope. Like get a lot of that stuff. And so what I've decided in the direction we're kind of headed, and it's been pretty successful, is we've actually been helping people find profitable properties. So we have a service where we do consulting and then if you continue on, we help people find properties that make sense based on the data. So a lot of people come to us and say, we deal with really anybody, like beginners all the way to like, people looking for their second one or in a 1031 exchange. I don't have a lot of time. I really want to get a property. I want to learn or whatever it is, but help me. And I'm like, sure. Yeah. So we help people find properties. That's been going very well. And I'm very good at it. So it's been, we take about 8 to 10 clients a month. And, right now, cause it's what I can handle or my team can handle at least. And it's been pretty successful in terms of, we have 100% success rate in finding people a property within 2 months. So,
wow, that's incredible. And so it might be a map dot somewhere in the United States that they're not familiar with, but that's what the data, that's what the data says. And so how long have you been doing this?
So I've been finding people properties for about a year and a half now. And that was kind of on the side. And then I kind of merged it into STR Insights with our infrastructure. So it was a lot easier to do that. And so I was kind of doing 1 or 2 here and there. Now I'm doing, 8 to 10. So.
And so you've had, sounds like 100% success rate there in finding the properties. How about the outcome of those found properties?
Yeah, that's probably the most important part, right? So so far, we're actually coming under. So we're coming in very conservative in our numbers. From everybody I've been able to reach out to, I'm trying to create a way where we can kind of stay in contact with people post acquisition by creating like a tracking software. So like, because a lot of people, they buy short-term rental, they get so super excited. Oh, I'm going to make, $100,000, whatever the number is. And they don't track all their expenses. They just see gross revenue and they don't track to see how much they actually made. So, they don't run their P&L. So profit and loss statements. And I'd like to keep in touch with these people, 1, to see, how they're doing, but then 2, allow them to be able to track and to see their success. So everybody we have talked to, it's been very positive, which has been great. And yeah, so I mean, I haven't had any complaints yet. So
that's great.
I'm very conservative though. So I did an example. We helped some guy. They bought a property for like $525 in Western North Carolina, Waynesville area, and we said it would probably do about 100,000. They ended up doing 125 after a year. So yeah, so I'm like, hey, you know what? That's okay. You guys did good because it depends on your hosting, right? Like you could Kenny could say it's going to make 100,000, but if you're not going to take good pictures, you're not going to put in the effort, use dynamic pricing, you might not make that 100. It really depends on your hosting and learning all that stuff too. So I try to coach people and consult there, say, look, this is what you're going to have to do to hit that. But it's really up to them and how they do that.
Yeah. You know, that it's really interesting. Like I look at like these super competitive markets, like the Panhandle of Florida and the Smoky Mountains, and the bar keeps raising and the houses keep getting better and better and better with new construction. It's almost like the best thing to do is use your tool to find the best market. Let's just say you have a blank slate and you have a piece of land and you want to build something. You're not actually looking for a house, but you identify the market. Is go to the craziest markets with the most competition, look at what they're building, and then apply that to like Nowhereville in the United States, and then it's going to be like you have one of a kind product, right?
Yep. That's a great way to look at it. Yeah. So what my rule of thumb is for finding deals, it's a strategy. So number one, we're looking in markets where what I call the barrier of entry is lower, meaning they don't have the indoor swimming pools like in the Smokies. I go to the other side of the Smokies, so Western North Carolina, where a lot of people don't even have hot tubs, so it's like, boom, right? There's some opportunity there. And then the second thing I look for is location within the market. So what are the attributes or the characteristics of the top performing properties in those markets? What are the sweet spots? What attributes do they have? Can I replicate that with another property? So if it's in Western North Carolina, I keep picking on that one, for example, because it's a good market. I talked about a hot tub, but having views is the most important thing. So if I can find a property with views, I can do design and furnishing. That's not a big deal. Yeah. I can improve the quality, the interior and exterior quality, and add amenities, but I need to have views. That's the number one thing. And you do that, all of a sudden you have the top performing property in that market, and what competition, So, and looking for ways to, I'll add this too. If you nail the location of the property, like in the mountains, you're on top of the hill, not the bottom of the hill, but top. There cannot be another property on top of you unless they go on another top of the mountain. So it provides an opportunity, or what I call an island, to protect you from increasing market saturation or increasing supply, in other words. So
that's interesting. I have these conversations all the time. Like in the Smokies, some folks will argue that views are the top amenity. That's until another amenity is introduced where people like it more. And so, but you're right. You can't recreate views. That's a piece of land that you're not going to be able to recreate. Like if I were, like we do these swimming pools that are made out of shipping containers, and they have this glass window in the front, and a lot of people are just like very, very weary of them and they don't want to do it. And we love that. And so, we introduced those along with views, along with Miss Pac-Man, and, you've got something incredible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's fascinating. It's almost like before companies like STR Insights existed, it was just based off of hearsay. It had to be just based off of hearsay, or, obviously Smoky Mountains produces a tourism list. Like they say, all right, 14.5 million people visited this year to the national park. It's probably harder to get that. Like that public data is not out there unless you know how to scrape it, which is something that you guys do.
Yeah. So I guess add to that. I mean, if you're like the normal person, you're like, okay, I'm either using STR Insights or not. I'm looking at a new market. What are the traffic drivers there? How many people are going to that market? I'm looking at, so like a ski resort, I'm going on their website. I'm looking at how many people go there per year. There's sites like, I'm going to have to look it up. Placer.ai or IO, AI, I think it is. They provide you like foot traffic levels based off of phone usage. Based on a certain address. We don't throw that in STR Insights. That's just a resource people can use for free. They'll tell you how many people are going there. And it's not perfect for a lot of locations, but it'll tell you how many people are going to a specific location with an address. So you can figure this data out. And if there's a lot of people going there, you'll find a number. Just do a Google search. It's just
Yeah.
really what it comes down to. So it's like, okay, this popped up as a good market. Why? Who's going here? And how many people?
Yeah.
Google that, and you can find information about it. And some cities have travel or tourism boards or departments or whatever, and they post some of that as well.
Yeah.
So
I'm just interested, like you personally, are you always looking for your next property? Like, I mean, you seem to have better access to the best deal.
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm
and
always
know-how.
looking for deals. I personally, so where I'm at currently is I don't have time. I mean, it is a commitment to go and set up a property.
Yeah.
So I just downsized. I had 6 at one point. I've downsized to 3. So I upgraded in size and I got rid of my kind of bottom. They might have had a really good ROI, but it's just, like, I don't want to cash flow $10,000 a year and call that worth it. I need a minimum 40. So all my properties that don't do that, gone. So it's got to be worth my time. And then I invest with other people. So I might find deals and then say, here's some money, you run it for me or whatever, partnerships, things like that. So that's how I stay in the game. But I mean, like I said, I'm always finding deals. So and people are like, oh, there's nothing on the market. And I'm like, found one today. So, like, all right.
All right. So I'm assuming all yours still aren't in Buffalo.
I have, yeah. So I have one in Buffalo, one in Niagara Falls, one in Watkins Glen, New York, which is a lake market. So,
yeah. Are you seeing, and this probably has nothing to do with the analytics, but are you seeing more and more kind of creative financing these days? Like students, like sub 2 and stuff like that?
So, I mean, I'll let you guys on a little secret. The deals that we're seeing have been on the market for 30 plus days, most of them, the average. So, like one that, I don't know, I need to actually message my guy on that, a guy helped, we're hopefully putting in contract. It's been on the market for 74 days. It's a really cool property. The problem is he's going to get, so the offer is, it's a new construction, and the builder, the contractor's the one, or the construction crew is the one who's selling it. So we're able to build in some amenities, and those amenities are what's going to drive and increase revenue. So the strategy at the property as is fine, but it's not really worth, like it's a $700,000 property. It's going to generate maybe $70,000 as is. We're talking about putting in a pool. Well, in that market, you put in a pool, all of a sudden, boom, we're talking 120, 130. Yeah. Now the deal's sweet. And you only added, like, I think the cost was like 60 grand. So like that stuff is what we're looking for, is kind of like what value adds. Now that I've nailed location, quality of the property, I just need to know what I can add to the property to boost my revenue. So, and we're getting a lot of that done with newer builds because we can creatively get that built in, or we're getting seller concessions like, hey, at closing, I'll pay you the $1.2 million, but you're going to write me $100,000, $50,000 check at closing so I can pay for my furnishings, and that will help me pencil this deal out. Yeah. So that's the kind of stuff. I mean, seller financing, I know, is out there. I've seen some people do it. A lot of our clients, we don't mess with that because it's like how hard to guarantee things. Yeah. But I know people are doing that now. It's become a buyer's market in a lot of places. So
that's that thing. We've got properties for sale in the Smokies, and we've decided that we would be okay with subject to loans. I mean, we see that in a good way. We require so much down payment in order to do that, but still a way to cash flow even post sale. Yeah. So that's fascinating, man. I don't know if you're getting into this market, how you do this if you don't use a tool like STR Insights. I just don't know a good way to do it. Unless you're doing like the old school way of just sending thousands and thousands of postcards out and hoping that 1% reply to you and say, yeah, I'll sell it to you at 30% below market in an already booming market. But the booming markets are expensive.
Right. So people who are looking across the country all the time, flying over, like I call it, like flying at 30,000 feet, trying to analyze properties, they're not going to find anything. They're not going to see anything. You have to have an eye. You have to be looking. You have to be applying a certain strategy. And a lot of it is coming in, like you mentioned before, going into a market where nobody else is doing the luxury property. Nobody else is doing that property with the pool or like the hot tub even. I mean, some of these basic things, like there's a lot of there's 13,000 markets in the United States. Like only 14 of them are like big popular ones. And the other ones are medium, which means they have 500 or less active rentals. And there's so much opportunity in those markets.
Man.
There's people, Watkins Glen, for example, my lake property, 1 million people go there a year, and there are 80 short-term rentals in that town. Only 80.
Everybody's writing down Watkins Glen right now.
I know, right? Well, joke's on them. So the reason why there's only 80, I'll add this in. The reason why there's only 80, they have regulation. They capped it at 80. But I got in, and the strategy I used was the guy who had a permit, he had an LLC, and so I acquired the LLC. But that's another conversation. Yeah. But I got in, and now I'm on an island, right? My competition's like 3 other people, and I just have to stay one step ahead of them. And I'm talking like I'm the only property with a hot tub in a lake market.
Wow.
You know, so yeah, so it's just like looking for that kind of stuff in these areas that people aren't really thinking about. STR Insights allows you to find these kind of gems, and then you can start looking in there and seeing what works in those markets and studying that stuff out.
Yeah, that's so good, man. That's really good, Kenny. This has been awesome. I mean, for our listeners, like if you're new and you're looking to get into the STR market, like STR Insights is a must-have in my book. Like just to say, hey, the Smokies has been a destination, or Destin, Florida has been a destination for 80 years. It's always going to be a destination. That's true. But you're probably not going to get a great deal, and it might not pencil out. So, yeah. So Kenny, if somebody wanted to get in contact with you, or somebody wanted to subscribe to STR Insights, what are those ways to do that?
Sure. So if you want to subscribe to STR Insights, you just go to strinsights.com. If you want to get in contact with me, maybe you have questions, maybe you're stuck looking, I don't care. Reach out to me at Kenny Bedwell on Instagram or Facebook. So reach out, either one. And I'm happy to talk and even do a free consultation as well to help you out. So,
oh man, that's super cool.
Threw that in there. Yeah. There you go.
That's great, man. Well, thanks, Kenny. We really appreciate it. And have a good one, bud.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for letting me be on.